Welcome to 2025 and our first video of the year. We've been radio silent for 3 weeks because today we got confirmation of some massive news that the entire year hinges upon. But now, finally, we can reveal all. What is up, boys and girls? It is 2025. In fact, it's the 16th of January, and this is the longest Drift Games have never put out a video. Why? Have we been chilling out? Have we been relaxing after the holidays? No, we've been working, putting in some serious hours to reveal what we're about to say in this video. 2024 was a wild year for us. We had the ups, we had the downs, and some crazy builds and on-track action. But for 2025, we have to up the game, we have to do new stuff, we probably have to take bigger risks than we've ever done before. And in this video, I'm going to go through 6 things that I've been dying to tell you all about in the last couple of weeks. Number 1, why did we take 4 weeks to post this video? Well, we finished 2024 on the highest of highs. We finished the Drift Games Clubhouse. It was a huge effort from so many people, and it turned out exactly how we wanted it to. It was an amazing emotional finish to 2024. After the huge disaster of the fire, we left that all behind us with a brand new home. We thought again, well, if we're leaving on such a high, we've got to start 2025 on such a high. And that means that we need some content and some interesting revelations that are going to keep you guys interested for the entire year. And that's why it's taken us over 4 weeks to organize sponsors, events, new builds, everything that we want to put together for this year to be an absolute banger. And it's been a lot of work from the whole team. So while we have been quiet on social and videos, you're about to find out why we have been taking so long to get this information out there. Number 2, what have we planned for 2025? Well, alongside the drifting and the events and all the good stuff that you're used to seeing on the channel, we got a little bit bored with the car scene recently. Everyone's kind of building the same cars, doing the same thing, and we wanted to stand out on our own. So we're taking on some very ambitious car builds in 2025. Stuff that nobody's ever built in Europe before, stuff we're not even sure if it'll work. We want to build some of the craziest cars you guys have ever seen. And we're taking some big risks with them because we don't even know if they're going to work. That's on the car build side. I'm also going to tease something else as well. A couple of years ago, if you're a new fan to the channel, you won't remember this, but I'm going to explain. We were trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. And the idea to get to 100,000 subscribers was to build our own Drift Games compound. That compound was going to have a showroom and an office. It was going to have a workshop, and it was going to have a racetrack. I don't want to give too much away in this video because there's still things being worked out. But in 2025, we want to complete that journey. Now, we've realized in Ireland that with governmental planning and financial resources and just environmental stuff, it's very hard to build all of those in the one place. So we completed our Drift Games Clubhouse, which is the office and showroom. Next up is the workshop, and then maybe it's the track. This is coming soon. This is in the works. If you guys are behind us, then I think we'll be able to complete all 3 in 2025. Number 3, 2024 Drift Games went to DriftMasters. What a year. I'm sure you guys watched all the videos. We put together a rookie team of Conor and Ryusuke Akiba. We knew nothing about running a team, managing tires, fuel, sponsorships. We knew nothing about the traveler logistics. We didn't know anything. We just threw ourselves in. And on top of all that, we lost everything bar the truck 2 weeks before the first round of the season. But we made it happen. We got both guys to every single round of DriftMasters, and it was an emotional roller coaster. From the Falvey family screaming in tears and joy to Ryusuke overcoming his demons and putting in a phenomenal performance in Poland. I couldn't be more proud of the entire Drift Games team, from the mechanics in the pits to the families behind the scenes, to our sponsors who supported us every step of the way, and most importantly, Conor and Ryusuke Akiba, who held the Drift Games brand in high regard and represented us all across Europe, taking every second to talk to every fan and putting their all into every single run on the track. So with 2024 in the books and our rookie season as a team in DriftMasters under our belt, we've learned so much. But there's big change coming for 2025, and in this video, I can finally reveal what our plans are for the season. So number 4 is revealing our first driver on the grid for 2025, and it is none other than Conor Falvey, the 2024 DriftMasters Rookie of the Year. We took an unknown school kid at 16 or 17 years of age, threw him in the mix with the best drivers in the game. We would have been impressed if he just qualified a few times. He improved every single round. Not only did he start off with a rough start in Spain, but throughout the year, he would qualify higher, higher, and higher, and finish higher, higher, and higher. Top 32s, top 16s, even top 8s against the best in the world, proving why he should be on the grid. And if that's just his first year, where he was just trying to qualify, can you imagine what's going to happen when he jumps into his second year? We love working with the Falvey team and the family. They are such a breath of fresh air and fun no matter what happens on track. Whether it's good or bad results, they're just right behind the Drift Games team, and we've all become one big family. Conor's car is currently back to a bare shell, being refreshed from the ground up, and it's going to look dramatically different than it did last year in terms of upgrades and everything else. So we're going to show you guys that in a couple of weeks when it gets closer to completion. New livery, new color scheme, new everything. It's going to be very, very cool. Conor has been a great ambassador for Drift Games. He's super polite, super humble, listens to everybody's advice, and thanks everybody on the team at the end of the event for everything they've done. He's just such a good ambassador for us that we really wanted him back on the team for 2025. And I really feel that if he did so well in his first year as a rookie, unknown, imagine what he's going to do this year. He could be on a podium. He could be challenging for the championship. Either way, as we always say at Drift Games, it's not about being the best, it's about trying your best, and we know Conor's going to do that right throughout the season. Number 5, what about Ryusei Akiba? I met Ryusei through a mutual friend of ours, Lucas, who has worked with us on so many projects on the channel. You guys know Lucas. And instantly, I just love the guy. Always smiling, a ray of light, but he also has this like kind of moody mysteriousness to him. He embodies everything about street Japanese culture that we try and emulate all over the world. He's the real deal. But he's also such a nice guy and has time for everybody, whether you're a fan or just somebody standing on the side of the street. He's so polite and so welcoming, and he fit perfectly into our Drift Games family last year. Ryusei is our boy. But he had a tough time at DriftMasters last year. He didn't qualify at 5 out of the 6 rounds, and he only really had that redemption moment in Poland, which I was so happy for him because he got to show finally how good he is. Unfortunately though, at DriftMasters, there is a relegation zone when it comes to drivers getting licenses. So every year, drivers from all over the world petition to be part of the DriftMasters grid. And that grid has been getting smaller and smaller every year. The reason being is that Red Bull TV, who broadcast live events all over the world, don't want 5 or 6 hour qualifying sessions. Another reason is that all of the rigs are getting bigger for each team, which means the pit area is getting smaller. And the third reason is that DriftMasters want each driver to have a lot of exposure when it comes to media. You get less the more drivers there are, and with the expense rising, the competitive nature of the cars, the damage, the tires, the fuel, well, sponsors for all of these drivers need a lot of exposure. The more drivers, the more that's split across so many people. Think about Formula 1. You probably know every single driver on Formula 1 on the grid. If there was 90, you probably wouldn't. So that's what DriftMasters are aiming for. And that means that in order for new drivers to come in, the drivers at the bottom of the scoreboard from the year before may lose their license. And Ryusei very much is in the risk of losing his license as he finished in the bottom 5 of the championship. It is extremely difficult for a Japanese driver to come to Europe. The car style is different, the driving style is different, the grip is different. It was a lot for Ryusei to learn in a very, very short time. In fact, you don't learn at DriftMasters because everybody there is an absolute killer. So if you don't swim, you sink very fast. So you may look like a worse driver than you really are, and I think Ryusei had a hard run of it in 2024. That said, he was an amazing part of the team, and his journey for me and that redemption at the end was everything we wanted. We put no expectations on Ryusei at the start of the year except having a good time, and I'm so glad that he did because he smiled the whole way through. He'd never even been to Europe before DriftMasters, so he had an incredible adventure, not only at the events, but outside of the events, traveling between different cities, and I'm so glad that we were able to give him that opportunity. But that's not the whole story, because Ryusei has also got a dream drive in D1 in Japan. Now, growing up in Japan, D1 is the top level. And he's got an offer from a team, which I'll let him release himself, which is super exciting. So going into 2025, the plan is to have Ryusei as a wild card at certain events throughout the year as part of the Drift Games team. This allows him to compete in Japan and Europe, and also it means that he can jump in as a wild card without being rejected a petition to be a full-time driver. So he will be part of Drift Games at some point, and we'll confirm those events as we go through the year. So, number 6. Who is on Team Drift Games in DriftMasters for 2025? Well, the driver grid is being released tomorrow. That's why we're putting the video out tonight, because you're going to know tomorrow who it is, and we wanted to get ahead of it and explain why. Conor Falvey confirmed for a full season. Ryusuke Akiba will jump in as a wild card on the Drift Games team for a couple of events, splitting his time between DriftMasters and D1. But we have a space on the truck. We've got all the rig there. We can't just bring one car around Europe because that is crazy cost. We may as well throw a second driver in there. So who is that second driver? Hold that thought, because I got something to share. All right, guys, to celebrate our first video of 2025, we have got a huge sale right now on driftgames.live for clothing and accessories. This is the cheapest we have ever had anything ever on our store. And we've got limited quantity, limited supply, because we're obviously heading into a new year. Now is the time to grab it. But to make things even more interesting, if you spend over €50 on driftgames.live, guess what? We're going to pick one person and we're going to send them the rear HGK carbon Kevlar bumper from the Supra. How cool would this thing look in your room or your garage or wherever? We're going to send it to you, wherever you are in the world. So all you got to do, at the end of this video, click the link in the description to our store, go grab yourself something. It has to be over €50. And next week, so let's say next Wednesday, 7 days, whether there's 20 people that do that or 50 people, one of you guys is getting this bumper. I kind of don't want to give it away, but I think it'll look cool in one of your rooms or one of your garages. Anyway, right, back to the video. Okay, sorry to keep you guys on a cliffhanger, but it's time to reveal the second driver on Team Drift Games 2025. Some of you are going to be happy about this decision. Some of you are going to be annoyed, doubtful, excited. I think this is going to be a controversial one. But the second driver on Team Drift Games for 2025 is me. I know, that's a big step, right? And bear with me, I'm not naive. We've got a lot of explaining to do. So last year, I was not in a position that I could become a DriftMasters driver. In many ways, I still amn't. But a lot of things changed in those 12 months. One of those things was that I was a background character when it came to competitive driving. I kind of wanted to just do show stuff, demo stuff. But there are certain things that have changed over those 12 months. And it's changed me very much as a person. I used to drift for fun. I mean, I haven't really achieved much in competitive levels, but I've also never really set myself up as a competitive driver. I would just turn up, put the car on the track, use it as like a breakaway from my day-to-day. I never really changed much on the car, did the setup, practiced. I think sometimes I would go 8 months without a competitive event and just rock up against James Deane or Dwayne McKeever and expect things to happen. That's not how it works. DriftMasters is a sport, and I'm not naive to how good it is because I'm one of the very few people, if not the only person, that has never not watched a run of DriftMasters. I've seen every single run from the start of the championship until the end of 2024 because I commentated on all of it. I heard every judging decision. I know how good that grid is. So I'm not naive. Am I good enough right now? No. But I'm going to tell you why I want to be good enough. I've been in drifting for 15 years. Most of that 15 years has been spent promoting other drivers and events. And at some point, I always wondered in the back of my head, was I good enough? If I gave myself the proper opportunity to go out there and be as good as everybody else. Not that even I would be, but could I be? And over the last year, when the fire happened, I lost my Corvette, we came across the Supra, which is a car that's capable of being competitive at DriftMasters. Before that, I didn't have one. So I have the car. We have the rig. We have amazing sponsors behind us who do those sponsor deals with me personally. And it's important as representing your own brand to those sponsors on track too. Second thing is Conor Falvey. I mean, Conor and I were very similar ability level when we decided to put Conor into DriftMasters. And I thought, to be honest, he wouldn't do as well. But he stepped up. He practiced hour after hour. He did every practice day. He took it so seriously. And when I saw his success, it made me believe. And that's crazy to think that my 17-year-old now teammate is actually the inspiration for me to go and drive, because his attitude, the way he held himself, and the way he took it seriously made me believe that maybe I could do the same. Now, it is 98 days away from DriftMasters right now. And am I good enough to compete with the best in the world? Absolutely not. But the good thing is I have the advantage of being self-aware that I'm not good enough. So that means in 98 days, I have to be. That means I got to practice more than I've ever practiced before with some of the best in the world. I've got to get the knowledge because I don't know enough about the setups and how the cars work to get the best out of them or give that information back to my mechanics. But the great thing about drifters is they'll share all of that. I need to compete. And that means competing in Australia, the Middle East, America, all over the world before we even start the DriftMasters season. And on top of everything else, I've got to get fitter, wiser, and put a big budget together to make it all happen. That is a lot in 98 days. And believe me, it would be far easier for me to go back, chill out, and do some commentary. But I think in the last year, I've proven that I do my best when I'm under pressure, when people are doubting me, and when I have a challenge. And this is definitely the biggest challenge I've ever faced in my career, because you can outwork anybody at events, you can be clever with creative, but this is sport and this is cutthroat, and there is no excuses, and you can't change what happens on the day. So this is also very stressful. And that brings us to the most important part of this announcement, number 7, which is the reality of this decision. Now let's take aside the fact that it is incredibly expensive to do DriftMasters. I take the risk of completely writing off the most expensive thing I've ever bought with no insurance. I probably could fail miserably and have the worst season and most demoralizing thing I've ever done in drifting. I know that people who are watching this video will think I don't deserve this opportunity, I shouldn't be there, and will be waiting to say that when I fail. So where other drivers might get a "you'll get him again next time" or a "best of luck" or "hard luck," I know people are going to be waiting to say you shouldn't have been there, you shouldn't have had that spot. And that's going to add to a lot of pressure. I know there's negativity coming. I've got to go past that negativity. I've got to go past the fact that I have 98 days to catch up on people like James Deane, who have at the top level for 19 years, and I haven't been there for a year, and I've got so much to learn in such a short amount of time. I know the challenge is almost ridiculous and I would need a miracle. But for me, there is a big goal for this. If I finish outside of the bottom half or the bottom of the DriftMasters Championship this year, I would retain my DriftMasters license and continue as a professional driver. If I don't, and I do fail, it will be the last time that I drift competitively. I'm not getting any younger, and if it's not for me, then it's just not for me. So where a lot of drivers will have many, many years to do DriftMasters in the future, I just have one, which is this year. And I'm putting it all into this 1 year, which means I'm going to practice more, get on the sim more, and learn a lot in a very short amount of time. Can I do it? I'll be honest with you guys, I don't even know. I don't even know if it's possible. But I've noticed in the last 10 years of running my own company in drifting, the more impossible the task, the bigger the challenge, and the more ridiculous it seems, they've been all of our wins. And the stuff that we did safe and repetitively, we sort of failed at. So this is a big one. After the fire last year, after building this new clubhouse in 4 weeks, building cars with Liberty Walk in just a week, I'm going to take the biggest risk I've ever taken and jump into the DriftMasters grid for 2025. And I'm just thinking that if I've only 98 days to do this, why the hell am I sitting here on a couch talking about it? I mean, I need to be maybe driving right now. This is absolutely wasting the time. Anyway, right. See you guys in a bit. I gotta go learn some stuff.
So we're here at 360 Motorsports Park in Kerry for a very special practice day with all the drivers from Ireland who have competed or compete in DriftMasters. So I'm going to use the solstice, get out there on some doors, get some tips, and start my practice session with some of the best in the business. This is going to be an intense practice session, not like a lot we've done before, so I'm excited for it.
I've watched every single run of the DriftMasters Championship since it started, but being on track with the drivers that actually compete in it is a totally different game.
So DriftMasters is probably the top tier championship in the world at the moment.
Huge step up from any national championship across the world.
But a step up from the local Irish championship up to DriftMasters was probably the hardest task I ever took in my life. It was really, really difficult. It took 70 hours before every event, working as hard as I could, and that was still found it really difficult.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure, but that's what makes it so special, you know, it's incredible.
At most open track days I've been at, practice is not a thing. It's about having fun, it's about doing what you can do, being smooth and having a good time. These guys are pushing beyond that. They're actually driving uncomfortably hard to make sure that they're comfortable in the uncomfortable. That means that they are not backing down, they're going on doors and they are hitting each other constantly and making mistakes because they're trying to find the limits. It's a totally different experience.
For Dave right now, who someone hasn't really competed at the national level for very long, essentially, to make the jump from like IDC to DriftMasters, I think it's quite brave, to be honest, because like I struggle like myself after driving in DriftMasters for the past 4 or 5 years now consecutively.
Obviously the speed of DriftMasters, everything has just stepped up and the drivers are absolutely unbelievable, so it's a really, really hard challenge. But Dave has taken on the challenge this year, but as everyone's seen from the fire last year and stuff, Dave has it in him to work harder than anyone I know, so I think he'll do good. He just needs to put in all the effort he can and we'll all be there to help him, but I think he'll do great and we'll enjoy it if all else fails.
Yeah, I think Dave is looking at his journey going to DriftMasters in the right way. He's bought a car that's similar to the Supra so he can practice in a similar seating position. And I think he knows that it's going to be a big challenge. Like, I've spoken to Dave quite a lot about it, just giving him a few tips where I can. And I think he's doing all the right things. It's definitely going to be a big challenge, but I don't see there being an issue for him qualifying. Like, he is a good line driver when he really focuses. He just needs to keep putting in the time and trying his best, and it's going to be great to see how he gets on.
It's a totally different game when you're drifting with guys like that who are practicing for DriftMasters, because those guys are totally unsympathetic of their cars. The cars are just a tool to practice. They don't care about panels, wheels, how it looks. It's just about going out there and getting seat time in. That's something I need to learn today, is that the car can't be pretty, you can't be putting stickers on it and all. If you want to practice car, you practice in it, and that thing is going to get wrecked. So we didn't wreck it too much, but from the start of the day to the end of the day, there was definitely a progression in my driving. We're going to do a couple more of these days before we get to the season, which is going to make me progress massively. Jumped onto the sim by the sim consultants to try and pick apart some of the stuff that I wasn't able to get right today. And then of course, we got plenty of competitions coming up in different countries over the next couple of weeks. So it's a very short road to DriftMasters, but we're going to try and cram 5 years worth of driving and experience into that. And the only way I can do that is drive with the best guys, be a little braver, and also these guys have all the knowledge, so pick their brains for what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. So today, having some of those guys give me pointers while they're driving with me, and that's going to improve my driving massively. Now, I know this video has been maybe a surprise to some of you that I'm going to DriftMasters. Maybe some of you are excited to see it. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely nervous. I know it's a massive challenge, and it's going to be very, very uphill from here. But hopefully you guys can support this stupid dream that I have. Some of you will think I'm very naive. Let me know in the comments. We've got an amazing bunch of people around us. We've got an amazing team lined up. We also have some amazing sponsors and partners that are willing us along all the way, so we can't thank those guys enough. You saw them all in the reel at the start of the video. It's going to be a big 2025, probably my most challenging personally. And we've got a load of other stuff that you guys are going to find out about in the next couple of weeks, because we've got car projects, dream car projects, new drift projects, the usual antics. But this, for me personally, is the biggest challenge I've ever had in drifting. And it started today, and it went pretty okay. So I'm happy with that. We'll see you guys on the next one, because we are heading over to the Middle East for our first competition of the season. And I'm also nervous, but it's going to be fun. We're driving our friend Hamdan's 350Z. You're going to see that on the next episode. Until then, I'll take a little breather because the adrenaline's high. Yeah, and I'm pumped. I'm hyped. I hope you guys are too.